Hey guys, I'm Mackenzie and I'm back for another episode of the New Ray Media Show. So today we're going to be chatting about brand consistency. Why is it important and what does brand consistency even mean? So let's start with what is brand consistency. It's a consistent effort to position and maintain your brand centered around the core values and identity of your company. It has a lot to do with marketing tactics and who you are as a brand. Brand consistency means effectively representing your brand and its core values throughout all the messaging that your brand puts out. This includes social media posts and platforms, ads, purchase points, even the packaging of your product. You should aim to make your brand memorable. You have to build your presence as a brand, not only online, but in your consumer's mind as well. The more they see you and repeat your name, and most importantly, identify your value, the more chances of generating leads you will have. You want to make them recognize you. Consistency will allow you to pop into your consumers' minds whenever they need the kinds of products or services that you offer. We would all rather buy from a familiar brand than one that we haven't even heard of. You want to make your brand look professional. It shows a certain level of professionalism when you have a consistent brand. A consistent brand clarifies what it does, what it stands for, and who it serves. You also want to make your brand simple to work with. Brand consistency provides a guideline to depend on for brand content, design, and communications. This makes it easy to make decisions based on what your brand is or what it isn't. You also want to build trust. Overall, brand consistency will help you build trust with your customer. As we all know, this is essential for any transaction because shopping is more an emotional decision than anything else. Brand consistency is proven to increase revenue. A Lucid Press report states that brand consistency significantly increases revenue by 10% to 20%. That's a lot. Over 60% of brands believe maintaining a consistent brand is important when generating leads and communicating with existing customers. It's important to define your brand and your core values. You want to know who you are as a brand. Every business has at least a business name and a logo, but you shouldn't stop there. You need to consider your brand's personality, its voice, its core values, and so much more. Your consumers need to know what you stand for. Defining your brand will give you so much insight into your consumers, the market, and your communication and marketing strategies. You want to identify your channels. Take a look at all the touch points between your brand and your consumers. What social media platforms do you use to interact with them? Do you only have an online presence, or can customers attend something in person, like a shop? What about product packaging, employee uniforms, or physical ads? The list could go on and on. The point is, you need to clarify and identify the channels that work for you and for your customers and optimize your messaging in each of those platforms. It's important to set brand guidelines. Now that you know who you are and where you will be seen by your customers, define a guideline for brand usage. This includes design and communication rules that can be followed to properly convey your brand's identity and core values. Once you have your brand guidelines, host a brand masterclass. Let everyone on your team meet the brand. You can set up a meeting with your whole team to explain the identity of your brand, as well as the correct usage and expressions of your brand identity. Once everyone is on the same page with your brand, its consistency should go up and should be pretty clear from there on out. It's important to provide branding resources. Have clear elements like colors, typographies, design rules for images or videos. Even the guidelines themselves should be pretty clear branding resources. Share every asset needed for your brand's content with your team. Any resources like templates or guidelines will speed up the workflow and keep everyone on the same page. What's the downside to not being consistent? Well, first off, it could confuse your customers. It's possible to make customers mistake your brand for another, or have them think two social media accounts from the same brand are from different brands. Lack of consistency results in a lack of connection between the brand and your customers, reducing chances to generate leads. Another reason to avoid lacking consistency is because you want to avoid relying solely on trends. Trends are not a bad thing, but it's good to know what makes your company unique and base your identity and campaigns on who your brand is and what it stands for, not something that comes and goes, like a trend. You want to avoid giving a bad impression to your new leads. This is why you want to stay consistent and always keep up your image. If potential leads see inconsistencies in the use of your branding, it gives off the idea that your company might not be trustworthy or even legitimate. The most important thing is to keep your brand promise. Whatever you do for your brand, think, how does this connect to my brand identity? How does it demonstrate what I stand for? Every action has to keep your brand promise alive in order to keep the trust of your consumers. For example, if you're building a brand around being able to deliver products within a specific time frame, then you better put serious effort into making sure that always happens. So let's take a look at some good brand consistency examples. They might seem pretty familiar to you. A great example of brand consistency is Nike, or Nike. I don't know, you can say whichever you'd like. Even if you don't like Nike, you can quote its slogan without even thinking about it. I'm not even gonna say it, but the fact that it popped up in your mind is proof of their brand consistency. Nike has been using their slogan for over 30 years. If you compare them with Reebok, the latter has changed its slogan 14 times since 1987. That's a lot. Another great example of consistency is Dropbox. The site likes to be minimal. Using Dropbox should be simple and readily accessible. And the Dropbox site is clearly for simplicity. In just about any place you can interact with Dropbox, it is clearly light and easy to understand. It's like they seem to say that when you store with Dropbox, you'll have less of a burden, and it's true. Simplicity makes it easier for everyone to use, and they're a service that appeals to a wide range of incomes and ages. Its minimalism helps Dropbox become whatever the user wants. It lets them fill in the blanks. And today's episode has been sponsored by Dropbox. No, I'm just kidding, but if they're interested, they know how to get a hold of us. Brand consistency has made the third example the giant it is today. Does the slogan, "Red, White, and You" sound familiar? Oh, maybe that one's too old. But what about "Life tastes good" or "Taste the feeling"? Now they go by Real Magic. The key to Coca-Cola's success is their ability to weave their way into our lives. They have awesome marketing and it always stands out. Sharing a Coke is supposed to bring up good memories and magical moments. At least that's what they're trying to invoke in you. If Coca-Cola were to lose all of its production-related assets in a disaster, the company would survive. By contrast, if all consumers were to have a sudden lapse of memory and forget everything related to Coca-Cola, the company would go out of business right away. That kind of thing was said by a Coca-Cola executive in a previous interview. The point is that the power of branding and the consistent use and spread of its promise and core values has deeply rooted Coke into our lives. I know all this can seem a little daunting to think about, and nobody's expecting you to have the marketing scheme of Coca-Cola by next Monday. But it's not an overnight job. Just like people, brands take years to develop their unique personalities. Try to tackle small sections at a time. When something is working for you, write it down and make it into a policy or procedure and keep adding it to your guidelines. Slowly but surely, you will start to develop a cohesive brand. I hope this helped you to understand what brand consistency is. Think of a brand that comes to mind for you. Maybe something that through all your childhood and still as an adult, whenever you see the packaging or the commercial, it brings an emotion out for you. That's a consistent brand. Comment below and let us know what it is.